On the Gift-Giving Virtue, from Thus Spake Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, the Walter Kaufmann translation. When Zarathustra had said farewell to the town to which his heart was attached, and which was named the Motley Cow, many who called themselves his disciples followed him and escorted him. Thus they came to a crossroads. Then Zarathustra told them that he now wanted to walk alone, for he liked to walk alone. His disciples gave him as a farewell present a staff with a golden handle on which a serpent coiled around the sun. Zarathustra was delighted with the staff and leaned on it. Then he spoke thus to his disciples. Tell me, how did gold attain the highest value? Because it is uncommon and useless and gleaming and gentle in its splendor, it always gives itself. Only as the image of the highest virtue did gold attain the highest value. Gold-like gleamed the eyes of the giver. Golden splendor makes peace between moon and sun. Uncommon is the highest virtue, and useless. It is gleaming and gentle in its splendor. A gift-giving virtue is the highest virtue. Verily, I have found you out, my disciples. You strive, as I do, for the gift-giving virtue. What would you have in common with cats and wolves? This is your thirst, to become sacrifices and gifts yourselves. And that is why you thirst to pile up all the riches in your soul. Insatiably, your soul strives for treasures and gems. Because your virtue is insatiable in wanting to give, you force all things to and into yourself that they may flow back out of your well as the gifts of your love. Verily, such a gift-giving love must approach all values as a robber, but whole and holy I call this selfishness. There is also another selfishness, an all too poor and hungry one that always wants to steal, the selfishness of the sick selfishness. With the eyes of a thief, it looks at everything splendid. With the greed of hunger, it sizes up those who have much to eat, and always it sneaks around the table of those who give. Sickness speaks out of such craving and invisible degeneration. The thievish greed of this selfishness speaks of a diseased body. Tell me, my brothers, what do we consider bad and worst of all? Is it not degeneration? And it is degeneration that we always infer where the gift-giving soul is lacking. Upward goes our way, from genus to over-genus, but we shudder at the degenerate sense which says, everything for me. Upward flies our sense. Thus it is a parable of our body, a parable of elevation. Parables of such elevations are the names of the virtues. Thus the body goes through history, becoming and fighting. And the spirit, what is that to the body? The herald of its fights and victories, companion and echo. All names of good and evil are parables. They do not define, they merely hint. A fool is he who wants knowledge of them. Watch for every hour, my brothers, in which your spirit wants to speak in parables. There lies the origin of your virtue. There your body is elevated and resurrected. With its rapture it delights the spirit, so that it turns creator and esteemer and lover and benefactor of all things. When your heart flows broad and full like a river, a blessing and a danger to those lying near, there is the origin of your virtue. When you are above praise and blame, and your will wants to command all things, like a lover's will, there is the origin of your virtue. When you despise the agreeable and the soft bed, and cannot bed yourself far enough from the soft, there is the origin of your virtue. When you will with a single will, and you call the cessation of all need necessity, there is the origin of your virtue. Verily, a new good and evil is she. Verily, a new deep murmur in the voice of a new well. Power is she, this new virtue. A dominant thought is she, and around her a wise soul. A golden sun, and around it the serpent of knowledge. Here Zarathustra fell silent for a while and looked lovingly at his disciples. Then he continued to speak thus, and the tone of his voice had changed. Remain faithful to the earth, my brothers, with the power of your virtue. Let your gift-giving love and your knowledge serve the meaning of the earth. Thus I beg and beseech you, do not let them fly away from earthly things and beat their wings against eternal walls. Alas, there has always been so much virtue that has flown away. Lead back to the earth the virtue that flew away, as I do, back to the body, back to life, that it may give the earth a meaning, a human meaning. In 100 ways thus far have spirit as well as virtue flown away and made mistakes. Alas, all this delusion and all these mistakes still dwell in our body. They have there become body and will. In 100 ways thus far, spirit as well as virtue has tried and erred. Indeed, an experiment was man. Alas, much ignorance and error have become body with us. Not only the reason of millennia, but their madness too breaks out in us. It is dangerous to be in error. Still we fight step by step with the giant accident, and over the whole of humanity there has ruled so far only nonsense, no sense. Let your spirit and your virtue serve the sense of the earth, my brothers, and let the value of all things be posited newly by you. For that shall you be fighters, for that shall you be creators. With knowledge the body purifies itself, making experiments with knowledge, it elevates itself. In the lover of knowledge all instincts become holy. In the elevated the soul becomes gay. Physician, help yourself, thus you help your patient too. Let this be his best help, that he may behold with his eyes the man who heals himself. There are 1,000 paths that have never yet been trodden, 1,000 healths and hidden isles of life. Even now, man and man's earth are unexhausted and undiscovered. Wake and listen, you that are lonely. From the future come winds with secret wing beats, and good tidings are proclaimed to delicate ears. You that are lonely today, you that are withdrawing, you shall one day be the people. Out of you who have chosen yourselves, there shall grow a chosen people, and out of them the overman. Verily, the earth shall yet become a site of recovery, and even now a new fragrance surrounds it, bringing salvation and new hope. When Zarathustra had said these words, he became silent, like one who has not yet said his last word. Long he weighed his staff in his hand, doubtfully. At last he spoke thus, and the tone of his voice had changed. Now I want to go alone, my disciples. You too go now alone. Thus I want it. Verily I counsel you, go away from me and resist Zarathustra. And even better, be ashamed of him. Perhaps he deceived you. The man of knowledge must not only love his enemies, he must also be able to hate his friends. One repays a teacher very badly if one always remains nothing but a pupil. And why did you not want to pluck at my wreath? You revere me, but what if your reverence tumbles one day? Beware lest a statue slay you. You say you believe in Zarathustra? But what matters Zarathustra? You are my believers, but what matter all believers? You had not yet sought yourselves, and you found me. Thus do all believers, therefore all faith amounts to so little. Now I bid you lose me and find yourselves, and only when you have all denied me will I return to you. Verily, my brothers, with different eyes shall I then seek my lost ones. With a different love shall I then love you. And once again you shall become my friends and the children of a single hope. And then shall I be with you the third time, that I may celebrate the great noon with you. And that is the great noon when man stands in the middle of his way between beast and overman, and celebrates his way to the evening as his highest hope, for it is the way to a new morning. Then will he who goes under bless himself for being one who goes over and beyond, and the sun of his knowledge will stand at high noon for him. Dead are all gods, now we want the overman to live. On that great noon, let this be our last will. Thus spoke Zarathustra.